The empty darkness of space stretched endlessly in Sector 447, a quiet region near the edge of what humans called their territory. Stars dotted the black canvas like scattered diamonds, cold and distant. Nothing moved here. Nothing changed. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that made people forget danger existed at all. Then the portals opened. One by one, 200 warships tore through the fabric of space itself. They emerged in perfect formation, their hulls painted in the ceremonial colors of the Gentar hegemony. Purple and gold armor plates gleamed under the light of a nearby star. Each ship bristled with weapons, their energy cores humming with power that could level cities. This was the pride of 12 alien species, united under one banner, feared across 100 star systems. Admiral Kexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. His four eyes scanned the tactical displays with satisfaction. His scales, deep blue and marked with the scars of 30 campaigns, caught the light from the screens. He had won every battle he had ever fought. Today would be no different. "Admiral, we have detected a vessel," his sensor officer announced, her voice carrying the clicks and whistles of her species. "Single ship, reading as human origin." Kexthor's mandibles spread in what his species considered a smile. Humans. The hegemony's ancient star charts barely mentioned them, a young species confined to a small cluster of systems, primitive, irrelevant until now. "Size and classification?" Kexthor asked. "Mid-range destroyer class. Approximately 300 meters in length. No escort vessels detected. She appears to be alone, Admiral." "Alone. One ship against 200. Kexthor felt almost disappointed. Where was the challenge? Where was the glory in crushing something so insignificant? But orders were orders. The Hegemony Council wanted to test human defenses before the main invasion fleet arrived. They wanted to know if humanity would fight or fold. "Hail them," Kexthor commanded. Standard terms: surrender or destruction. Across the void, the human vessel hung in space like a silent predator. The UHV Indomitable was not beautiful by any standard. Her hull was a dark gray, covered in odd angles and plate seams. No decorative colors. No proud symbols. Just function. Just purpose. She looked like she had been built in a hurry, by people who cared more about results than appearance. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Sarah Chen stood with her arms crossed, watching the alien fleet appear on her screens. Her dark eyes narrowed slightly. Her jaw tightened, but her voice remained calm when she spoke. "Well, that's not something you see every day," she said. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, whistled low. 200 contacts, Captain. All armed, all powering weapons. They're surrounding us." "I can see that, Marcus, and should I sound battle stations?" Chen glanced at her coffee mug, still half full and sitting on the arm of her chair. She picked it up and took a slow sip. "Not yet. Let's see what they want." The communication system crackled to life. A synthesized voice translated by the ship's computer filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you have entered space claimed by the Gentar hegemony. You will power down your weapons and surrender your ship immediately. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. You have 60 seconds to respond." The bridge crew looked at their captain. Some were nervous. Others were angry. A few looked excited. Chen set her coffee down carefully. "Open a channel," she said. "Channel open, Captain." Chen leaned forward slightly, her voice clear and firm. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Human Space Vessel Indomitable. You are in neutral space, not hegemony territory. We have no hostile intentions. I suggest you continue on your way and we'll continue on ours. No one needs to get hurt today." There was a pause. Then laughter came through the speakers. Harsh barking laughter that made Chen's crew stiffen. "Brave words from a dead woman," Kexthor's voice responded. "You are one ship. We are 200. Your choices are simple: surrender or die." "You have 30 seconds, Chen sat back in her chair. She looked at her crew, reading their faces. They were scared, yes, but they were ready. They were human. They had trained for this their entire careers. Marcus, sound battle stations. All hands to combat positions. Alarms blared throughout the Indomitable. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Crew members ran to their stations with practiced efficiency. Gun crews loaded the railguns. Missile tubes armed their warheads. Engineers pushed the fusion reactors to full power. The ship's AI core, a quantum computer named Athena, began running combat simulations at billions of calculations per second. "Weapons ready, Captain." Marcus reported. All systems green. Athena is online and tracking all hostile vessels. Shields? Chen asked. We don't have shields, ma'am. You know that? I know. Just checking if anyone installed some while I wasn't looking. Chen picked up her coffee again. Open channel one more time. Channel open. Chen's voice was ice cold now, all traces of diplomacy gone. Hegemony Fleet, this is your final warning. You don't want to do this. Turn around, leave, forget you ever saw us. Because if you fire on this ship, I promise you, most of you won't live to regret it. Silence. Then more laughter. Kexthor shook his head on his bridge, amused. Such spirit. Such foolishness. All ships, attack formation Delta. Target the human vessel. Prepare to fire on my mark. The Hegemony Fleet moved, ships gliding into position like a pack of predators surrounding wounded prey, energy weapons charged. Missile tubes opened. 200 warships against one. Captain Chen watched them come. She finished her coffee and set the empty mug aside. Well, she said quietly, we tried. Marcus, give me firing solutions on all targets. Priority to their flagship and command vessels. Solutions locked, Captain. We're ready. Chen looked at the view screen one last time, at the overwhelming force arrayed against her ship, against her crew, against everything they represented. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people who trusted the fleet to protect them. She thought about every battle humanity had ever fought, every war, every struggle to survive. Then she smiled. Weapons free, Chen said. Show them why we don't lose. In the command chamber of the Eternal Dominance, Admiral Kexthor watched his tactical display with growing satisfaction. The human ship sat motionless in the center of his formation, completely surrounded. It had not tried to run. It had not tried to hide. Either the humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Kexthor suspected the latter. Intelligence analysis complete, Admiral, his chief analyst reported. The small gray-skinned officer adjusted her vision enhancers and read from her data pad. The human vessel shows primitive design characteristics. Hull composition is unusual. Heavy metals we cannot fully identify. No visible energy shielding. Propulsion system appears to be fusion-based, similar to our own but less refined. Weapon systems are unclear, but scans show multiple launch tubes and what appear to be kinetic projectile systems. Kexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. Kinetic weapons? They still throw rocks at their enemies? It would appear so, Admiral. Our shields will deflect such primitive attacks with ease. And their communications? Their final warning? Bravado, Admiral. Nothing more. They hope to frighten us into retreat. Kexthor turned to his weapons officer. Prepare to show them what real power looks like. All ships will fire simultaneously. I want that vessel reduced to atoms in the first volley. Make it quick. Make it absolute. Yes, Admiral. What Kexthor did not know, what his analyst could not see, was the truth about humanity. They had no records of Earth, the human homeworld. If they had, they would have hesitated. They would have questioned everything. Earth was a nightmare planet by galactic standards. Gravity 20% higher than most species could tolerate long-term. An atmosphere rich in corrosive oxygen, weather patterns that spawned storms powerful enough to level forests, earthquakes that split continents, volcanoes that darkened skies for years, ocean predators the size of small spacecraft, land predators with teeth like knives and the instinct to hunt in packs. Humans had evolved in that hell. They had adapted to it, thrived in it, and when they finally developed intelligence, they turned that survival instinct on each other. For thousands of years, humans had fought humans. Wars that consumed nations, weapons that could end civilizations. They had built empires and watched them fall. They had split the atom and nearly destroyed themselves with it. They had clawed their way to the stars not through peace but through the constant pressure of competition and conflict. Human warships were not designed to fight other species. They were designed to fight other humans who knew every trick, every weakness, every tactical doctrine. Human weapons were built to overwhelm human defenses, which meant they were built to overwhelm anything. The Indomitable represented 200 years of this philosophy. Her hull was not just metal. It was layered composites of titanium, tungsten carbide, and synthetic materials that could absorb and dissipate energy. Her armor was designed to survive nuclear strikes. Her structure was redundant with backup systems for the backup systems. She carried no energy shields because humans had learned something the hegemony had not. Shields could fail. Shields could be overwhelmed. Shields gave you a false sense of security. Better to build armor so tough that you did not need shields at all. Her weapons were equally brutal in their efficiency. The railguns that lined her hull could accelerate tungsten carbide slugs to 3% of light speed. At that velocity, they carried more kinetic energy than a tactical nuclear weapon. They could punch through any armor. They could not miss because they were guided by Athena, an AI that could track and prioritize thousands of targets in microseconds. Her missile tubes carried fusion warheads, each one capable of vaporizing a city. Her point defense grid consisted of 10,000 micro railguns, laser emitters, and electronic warfare packages that could intercept anything from bullets to asteroids. And her crew. 340 men and women who had trained in simulators that made actual combat seem easy by comparison. They had practiced every disaster scenario, every system failure, every desperate last stand. They were not the best humanity had to offer. They were average, standard, routine. That thought alone should have terrified the hegemony. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Chen watched the enemy fleet complete their attack formation. She saw the energy signatures spike as they charged their weapons. She saw the missile tubes open like hungry mouths. "Time to impact?" she asked calmly. "They will fire in 10 seconds, Captain," Marcus reported, tracking 2,300 incoming projectiles. Mix of energy weapons and physical missiles. "Athena, status." The AI's voice was smooth, almost human. "All systems operational, Captain. Point defense grid is active. Counter battery solutions locked. Ready on your command," Chen nodded. She did not look nervous. She did not look afraid. She looked like a woman who had done this 1,000 times before, even though this was her first real battle against an alien force. "Hold fire until they commit," she said. "Let them see what they're dealing with." "Aye, Captain." The hegemony fleet fired as one. 2,300 weapons released their fury at the same instant. Energy beams, brilliant and deadly, streaked across the void. Plasma torpedoes, each one burning at millions of degrees, spiraled toward their target. Kinetic missiles tipped with explosive warheads accelerated hard. It was overwhelming firepower, enough to destroy a dozen ships, enough to crack a moon. It lit up the darkness like a miniature sun, and the Indomitable did not move. "Brace for impact," someone shouted on Kexthor's bridge. But there was no impact. The human ship's point defense grid activated. 10,000 weapons fired in perfect synchronization. Every energy beam was met by a precisely angled armor plate that vaporized on contact but absorbed the energy. Every plasma torpedo was intercepted by a micro railgun slug moving too fast to see. Every missile was targeted by a laser that detonated its warhead prematurely. In 3 seconds, 2,300 weapons were neutralized. In the 4th second, the Indomitable showed its teeth. "Return fire," Captain Chen said quietly. "All weapons. Full spread. Athena, you have the controls. Kill them." "Acknowledged, Captain. Engaging." The railgun spoke first. Tungsten carbide slugs, each one weighing 10 kilograms, accelerated down the magnetic barrels at velocities that defied comprehension. They crossed the distance to the hegemony fleet in less than a second. They struck armor that was supposed to be impenetrable. The armor shattered like glass. The first slug hit the Eternal Dominant's dead center, punching through 3 decks before exiting the other side. Kexthor felt his flagship shudder. Alarms screamed. His crew stared at their screens in disbelief. "Shields holding," his defense officer shouted. Then he looked again. "Wait, no, shields are down. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. We have casualties!" "What hit us?" Kexthor demanded. "What was that?" The second slug hit before anyone could answer. Then the third. Then the fourth. All around the formation, hegemony ships began to die. The fusion missiles launched next, 20 of them, spreading through the enemy fleet like seeds on the wind. When they detonated, they created miniature suns. Clean nuclear fire consumed everything within a kilometer radius. Shields did not matter. Armor did not matter. Ships simply ceased to exist. The Indomitable's electronic warfare packages activated, flooding hegemony systems with viruses and override codes. Navigation systems failed. Weapons locks dissolved. Some ships started firing on their own allies, their computer-controlled targeting systems compromised. Kexthor watched his fleet disintegrate. In 10 seconds, 40 ships were gone. In 20 seconds, 100. In 30 seconds, 140 were either destroyed or drifting helplessly, their systems dead. All ships retreat, he screamed.
Fall back!
Fall back now! But half his fleet could not even maneuver anymore. Their engines were offline. Their crews were dying. They were sitting targets. Captain Chen watched the carnage on her view screen. She felt no joy, no satisfaction. Just cold efficiency. Ceasefire, she ordered. The guns fell silent. 60 hegemony ships remained, fleeing in every direction, their attack formations scattered like leaves in a storm. The silence that followed was worse than the noise of battle. In the empty space of Sector 447, debris tumbled slowly through the void. Pieces of hegemony warships, some still glowing from the heat of their destruction, drifted like snow in a winter storm. Emergency beacons flashed weakly. Escape pods launched from dying vessels, their occupants hoping to survive what their ships could not. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Chen stood perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The green icon representing her ship sat calmly in the center. Around it, red icons blinked and faded as the computer updated the status of enemy vessels. Destroyed, disabled, retreating. The numbers told a story that should have been impossible. 140 hegemony ships were gone, not damaged, not retreating. Gone. Erased from existence in 30 seconds of combat. 60 more were running, their engines burning at maximum power, desperate to escape the range of the human destroyer that had just killed 70% of their fleet. Damage report, Chen said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence of her bridge. Lieutenant Rodriguez blinked, shaking himself from his shock. He checked his console. Minor damage to external hull plating on sections 7 and 12. Point defense grid functioned at 98% efficiency. 2 emitters offline for maintenance. Railgun batteries at 85% ammunition capacity. Fusion missile stores at 70%. No casualties. No system failures. Chen nodded slowly. Engineering, reactor status? Reactors running smooth, Captain. Chief Engineer Park's voice came through the comm. We barely broke a sweat down here. Ready for round 2 if they're stupid enough to come back. Let's hope they're not, Chen said. She turned to her communications officer. Scan for survivors. Tag all escape pods and emergency beacons. Transmit their locations on open frequency so rescue ships can find them. Yes, ma'am. But Captain, shouldn't we capture them? No, we're not here to take prisoners. We're here to defend our territory. Tag them and let them go home. They'll carry the message back better than any prisoner would. Understood, Captain. Chen walked to her command chair and sat down slowly. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was calm, but inside her mind was racing. This was first contact with a hostile alien species. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. Are we alone? No. Do they come in peace? Apparently not. Marcus, get me a line to the hegemony flagship, she said. I saw it take hits, but it's still functional. Target lock on it. Let them know we can finish the job if we need to. Aye, Captain. Channel opening. They're receiving. Chen stood again, straightening her uniform. Hegemony flagship, this is Captain Chen. Your fleet has been neutralized. I ordered my crew to cease fire because I believe this fight is over. Prove me right. Stand down your weapons. Shut down your targeting systems. Do it now, or I will finish what you started. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, Admiral Kexthor heard those words and felt something he had not experienced in 30 years of combat. Fear. Pure, primal fear. His flagship was dying around him. 3 railgun slugs had punched through his ship's hull like it was made of paper. Fires burned on 4 decks. Atmosphere was venting from a dozen breaches. Half his crew was dead or injured. His shields, which were supposed to be impenetrable, had failed in the first seconds of combat. Admiral, the human is hailing us, his communications officer said, her voice shaking. She is offering terms. What kind of terms? Kexthor asked. Survival, Admiral. She wants us to stand down. Kexthor looked at his tactical display. It showed the Indomitable sitting in the exact same position as before, undamaged, her weapons still hot and ready. Around her floated the wreckage of 140 warships. His ships, his warriors, all dead because he had underestimated a single human vessel. "Stand down, weapons," he said quietly. "All remaining ships, cease targeting. Power down offensive systems." "Admiral, if we surrender—" "We already have," Kexthor interrupted. "We lost this battle in the first second. We just didn't know it yet. Do as I command." One by one, the surviving hegemony ships powered down their weapons. Their targeting locks dissolved. Their missile tubes closed. 60 ships that minutes. Hago had been part of the most powerful fleet in the sector, now drifted like children's toys. Powerless and broken. Captain Chen watched them comply. "Good choice. Now, Admiral, I think we need to talk. You attacked us without provocation. You threatened to destroy my ship. You gave me no choice but to defend myself. I want you to understand something very clearly. This was not our full strength. This is one destroyer on routine patrol. We have hundreds of ships like this one. We have carriers. We have dreadnoughts. We have weapons you cannot imagine. If you go back to your government and tell them to send more ships, tell them to send better ships, tell them to come for revenge, the result will be the same. Only bigger, only worse." Kexthor listened to her words and felt his scales crawl with shame and terror. One ship. One human ship. How is this possible? "What are you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What kind of species are you?" There was a pause. When Chen spoke again, her voice was softer, almost gentle. "We're humans, Admiral. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Storms, earthquakes, predators, disease. We adapted. We survived. And then when we finally conquered our world, we turned on each other. We fought wars that killed millions. We built weapons that could end our entire species. We reached the stars not because we wanted to explore, but because we were terrified of destroying ourselves on our one planet. We learned to build ships, like this one, because we had to fight enemies who knew all our tricks, all our weaknesses, all our tactics. We built these ships to fight other humans. You never stood a chance." Kexthor felt something break inside him. Pride, perhaps, or certainty. His entire worldview had shattered in 30 seconds. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "I want you to leave. I want you to go back to your government and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that humanity does not want war. Tell them we would prefer to be peaceful neighbors. But tell them, make absolutely sure they understand, that if they bring war to our space again, we will end them. Every ship, every fleet, every world that supports the attack. We will not stop until the threat is gone. Do you understand me, Admiral?" "Yes," Kexthor said. "I understand." "Good. You have 1 hour to collect your survivors and leave this sector. Any ship still here after that will be fired upon. Chen out." The channel closed. Kexthor slumped in his command chair, his body suddenly feeling very old and very tired. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to save their dying ship. He barely noticed. His mind was replaying the battle over and over, trying to understand how it had gone so wrong so quickly. 200 ships, the pride of the hegemony, destroyed in half a minute by a single human vessel. How would he report this? How would the council react? Would they believe him, or would they call him a coward and send more ships to die? "Get us out of here," he finally said. "All surviving vessels begin rescue operations. We have 1 hour. Move." The hegemony fleet, what remained of it, began the humiliating task of picking up survivors and limping away from the battlefield. Behind them, the Indomitable watched silently, her weapons tracking them until they jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished. Captain Chen sat back in her chair and allowed herself one long breath. Her hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up to her. But her crew did not need to see that. "Marcus, send an encrypted message to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. First contact with hostile alien force. Engagement successful. Enemy fleet neutralized. No friendly casualties. Recommend immediate deployment of defense platforms to all border sectors. They know where we are now. They'll be back. Message sent, Captain." "Good." Chen looked at her empty coffee mug and smiled slightly. "And someone get me a refill." I think I earned it. Her crew laughed, the tension finally breaking. But they all knew the truth. This was not the end. This was just the beginning. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the only language that every species understood: force, power, the willingness to fight and win. The question now was, what would the galaxy do about it? The journey back to hegemony space took 3 days. 3 days of silence, 3 days of shame. Admiral Kexthor spent most of that time in his quarters, staring at the tactical recordings of the battle. He watched them over and over, searching for the moment where everything went wrong, the moment where his certainty turned to disaster, but there was no single moment. The battle had been lost before it even began. He just had not known it. On the 3rd day, the battered remains of his fleet arrived at the Hegemony High Command Station, a massive orbital platform that housed the Council of 12, the ruling body that governed all member species. It hung in space like a great wheel, its lights brilliant against the darkness. Ships came and went constantly, bringing reports from across hegemony territory. But when Kexthor's fleet arrived, every other vessel gave them space. Word had already spread. 200 ships had left. 60 had returned. The whispers followed them like ghosts. Kexthor stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship and watched the station grow larger on the view screen. His scales, normally a proud blue, had faded to a dull gray. His officers avoided looking at him directly. Everyone knew what was coming. A council inquiry. Questions, accusations, perhaps even execution for failure. Admiral, the council summons you immediately, his communications officer said quietly. They demand a full report, Kexthor nodded. Tell them I'm on my way. The council chamber was ancient, built when the hegemony was first formed 500 years ago. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each one occupied by a representative from a different species. Some looked humanoid, others were radically different, adapted to worlds humanity had never imagined. But all of them shared one thing: power. The power to decide the fate of billions. Kexthor entered the chamber and stood in the center. Above him, holographic displays showed the tactical data from the battle. The 200 red icons of the hegemony fleet, the single green icon of the human ship. Then the replay began, showing the destruction in brutal detail. Admiral Kexthor, the head counselor, spoke. She was a tall insectoid creature with multifaceted eyes and a voice that clicked and hummed. Explain what happened in Sector 447. Kexthor straightened his posture. If he was going to face judgment, he would do it with what little dignity remained. We engaged a human vessel as ordered. We demanded their surrender. They refused. We attacked with overwhelming force. They responded with greater force. In 30 seconds, 140 of our ships were destroyed. I ordered the retreat to save the survivors. Silence filled the chamber. The counselors looked at each other, their expressions unreadable. One ship, another counselor said, his voice deep and rumbling. He was a massive creature covered in thick armor plating. You are telling us that one human ship destroyed 140 of our finest warships in 30 seconds? Yes, counselor. That is exactly what I am telling you. That is impossible, a third counselor stated flatly. She was small, almost delicate, with skin that shimmered like water. No single vessel possesses that kind of firepower. Your sensors must have been wrong. There must have been other ships. Hidden ships, no, counselor. There was only one. Our sensors were functioning perfectly. I have reviewed the data personally. The human vessel, the Indomitable, was alone. She defeated us alone. The head counselor leaned forward. Describe their weapons. Kexthor felt his throat tighten, but he forced himself to speak. They used kinetic weapons. Projectiles accelerated to enormous speeds. Our shields could not stop them. Our armor could not withstand them. They also employed nuclear weapons, more powerful than anything we carry. And they have point defense systems that can intercept every weapon we fire. Every single one. We hit them with 2,000 projectiles simultaneously, none of them connected. And their shields? They have no shields, counselor. They do not need them. Their armor is strong enough to withstand our weapons without shielding. More silence. Then whispers began among the counselors, spreading like fire through dry grass. Impossible. How could this be? Where did these humans come from? Why did we not know about them? What did the human captain say to you? The head counselor asked. Kexthor swallowed. This was the part he had been dreading. She said that her ship was not their full strength. She said it was a routine patrol vessel. She said they have hundreds like it, and larger vessels we cannot imagine. She warned us that if we attack them again, they will destroy every ship we send, every fleet, every world that supports the attack. She said they will not stop until the threat is gone. The chamber erupted in noise. Some counselors shouted in anger. Others demanded answers. A few simply sat in stunned silence, processing what they had just heard. The head counselor raised a limb for silence. Slowly the noise died down. "Do you believe her, Admiral?" "Do you believe the humans have this level of power?" Kexthor met her multifaceted eyes. "Yes, counselor. I believe her. I saw what one of their ships can do. I cannot imagine what a fleet of them would accomplish. And counselor, there is something else, something I realized after speaking with her." "Go on." "The humans are not like us. They did not evolve on peaceful worlds. Their planet Earth is a death world by our standards. High gravity, dangerous environment, predators everywhere. They evolved to survive in that hell, and when they developed intelligence, they turned on each other. They fought wars for thousands of years before reaching space. Their weapons are not designed to fight aliens. They are designed to fight other humans who know all their tactics. That is why we never stood a chance. We were fighting an enemy that has been preparing for war since before they discovered fire." The chamber fell silent again. This time the silence was different. It was not shock. It was fear. Fear of a species that had been forged in violence and perfected the art of war before they ever left their homeworld. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" the head counselor asked quietly. "Peace, counselor. Immediate diplomatic contact. We apologize for the attack. We offer trade. We offer friendship. We do anything except provoke them further, because if we go to war with humanity, we will lose. Not eventually. Not after a long conflict. We will lose quickly and absolutely." A counselor in the back stood up, his form radiating anger. "This is cowardice. We are the hegemony. We have conquered 100 worlds. We will not bow to these primitives." Kexthor turned to face him. "Then you go fight them, counselor. Take a fleet. Take 10 fleets. Go to human space and see what happens. I promise you, you will not return. And when humanity decides we are a threat, they will come here. They will come to our worlds, and we will learn what it means to face an enemy that cannot be stopped." The angry counselor sat down, his protest dying in his throat. The head counselor stood. "The council will deliberate. Admiral, you are dismissed. Return to your quarters and await our decision." Kexthor bowed and left the chamber. His legs felt weak. His hearts were beating rapidly. He had told them the truth. Now it was up to them to decide what to do with it. Meanwhile, in human space, Captain Chen's message had reached Earth Command. Within hours, it had traveled to the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. Within a day, every human colony, every military installation, every civilian station knew the news. First contact. Hostile aliens. Battle won. No casualties. The reaction was not celebration. It was preparation. Defense platforms were deployed to every border system. Fleets were repositioned. Diplomats scrambled to prepare protocols for contact with alien civilizations. Scientists analyzed every bit of data from the Indomitable sensors, trying to learn about the enemy. And in military academies across human space, instructors began teaching a new lesson to their students. The lesson of the 30-second war, as it was already being called. The lesson that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their willingness to fight, to adapt, to never surrender. Captain Sarah Chen was promoted to Commodore. She received commendations from a dozen governments. News organizations wanted interviews. Scientists wanted to study her tactics. Children wanted to know what it felt like to save humanity. But Chen ignored all of it. She had work to do. Because she knew better than anyone that the battle in Sector 447 was just the opening move in a much larger game. The galaxy now knew about humanity. The question was, what would humanity do about it? She sat in her new office on Earth, looking at orders that had just arrived from the highest levels of government. Orders that would change everything. She was being sent back to space. Not to patrol, not to fight, to talk, to meet with the aliens. To represent humanity at something called the Galactic Assembly, a place where hundreds of alien species gathered to discuss politics and trade and peace. Chen smiled slightly. From warrior to diplomat in less than a week. Only in the human military could that happen. She accepted the orders and began preparing for the most important mission of her life. Not to win a battle, but to win a peace. The news spread through the hegemony like wildfire through a dry forest. It passed from ship to ship, station to station, world to world. Within a week, every species in hegemony space knew the story. Admiral Kexthor, the undefeated warrior, had taken 200 ships to conquer a single human vessel. He had returned with 60. The rest were debris floating in the darkness of Sector 447. But the story did not stop at the hegemony borders. The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of species, hundreds of governments, and countless independent worlds. Information traveled on trade routes, on diplomatic channels, through spies and merchants and simple gossip. Within a month, half the known galaxy had heard about the humans, a species that could destroy a fleet with a single ship, a species that had never been seen before, suddenly appearing with technology that defied understanding, a species that offered peace but promised annihilation if attacked. The reactions were varied and immediate. Some species, those who had suffered under hegemony expansion, celebrated. Finally, someone had bloodied the tyrant's nose. Finally, the hegemony understood what it felt like to lose. Other species, neutral traders and peaceful civilizations, became curious. Who were these humans? What did they want? Could they be reasoned with? Could they be traded with? And a few species, the warrior races and the ambitious empires, felt something else. Fear, yes, but also challenge. If the hegemony could not defeat humanity, could they? Should they try? Or should they ally with this new power before someone else did? On the hegemony council station, the debate had raged for 2 weeks. Some counselors demanded revenge. They wanted to assemble every ship in hegemony space and crush the humans before they became a greater threat. Others urged caution. They had seen the tactical data. They understood what they were facing. A few even suggested something radical: peace. Finally, the head counselor called for a vote. The chamber fell silent as each representative made their choice. When the count was complete, the decision was made by a slim margin. The hegemony would seek peace with humanity. They would send a diplomatic mission. They would offer trade and non-aggression. They would not attack again. Admiral Kexthor, who had been confined to his quarters expecting execution, instead received new orders. He would lead the diplomatic mission. He had faced the humans in battle. He understood their strength. He would represent the hegemony at the Galactic Assembly, a neutral space station where species met to discuss matters of mutual interest, and he would meet the human representative there. The Galactic Assembly Station was enormous, a structure built over centuries by dozens of species working together. It hung in neutral space, claimed by no government, protected by ancient treaties. Ships of every design imaginable docked at its ports. Beings of every shape and size walked its corridors. Here in this one place, the galaxy came together. When the news arrived that both the hegemony and humanity would send representatives, the assembly went into a frenzy of preparation. Everyone wanted to see this. Everyone wanted to witness the meeting between the species that had fought the 32nd War. Commodore Sarah Chen arrived first, commanding a small fleet of 5 human vessels. The Indomitable led the formation, her hull repaired and repainted, her crew proud of what they had accomplished. The other 4 ships were escorts, smaller destroyers that nonetheless made the alien observers nervous. If one human ship could do what the Indomitable had done, what could 5 do together? Chen docked at the assembly station and stepped off her ship wearing her dress uniform, dark blue with silver trim, medals on her chest earned in the defense of human colonies. She was flanked by 2 Marine guards in powered armor, their weapons slung but their presence unmistakable. A translator device hung at her collar, ready to convert her words into any language the galaxy used. The station's welcoming committee was waiting. Representatives from a dozen species, all wanting to be the first to greet humanity's envoy. Chen smiled politely and shook hands, tentacles, claws, and various other appendages. She answered questions carefully, revealing little but promising much. "Is it true your ship destroyed 200 hegemony vessels?" one alien asked, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly. "We destroyed 140, Chen corrected. The rest retreated. And no, we did not want to destroy them. We wanted them to leave. They chose to fight. We chose to survive. Will humanity seek to expand into hegemony space? No. We will defend our territory, but we have no interest in conquest. We prefer trade to war. What does humanity want from the galaxy? Chen paused at that question. It was the important one. The one that would define humanity's relationship with every species present. She chose her words carefully. We want what everyone wants: safety, prosperity, knowledge. We want to learn from other species. We want to share what we know. We want to trade goods and ideas. And we want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. But we also want something else. We want respect. We will not be pushed around. We will not be threatened. We will not allow others to attack us without consequence. Give us respect and we will be good neighbors. Deny us that and you will learn what we are capable of. The aliens looked at each other nervously. It was a bold statement. But after what the Indomitable had done, no one was willing to challenge it. 3 days later, Admiral Kexthor arrived. His flagship had been repaired as much as possible, but the scars of battle were still visible on its hull. He came alone without escort, a gesture of humility that did not go unnoticed. When he disembarked, he moved slowly, his body language showing deference and caution. The assembly had prepared a grand meeting hall for the encounter. Hundreds of species sent observers to watch. The room was circular, with viewing galleries rising up on all sides. In the center stood 2 podiums, one for the hegemony representative, one for humanity. Chen arrived first and took her place. She stood straight, hands clasped behind her back, face neutral. When Kexthor entered, she watched him approach without expression. This was the alien who had tried to destroy her ship, who had threatened her crew, who had learned the hard way that humans do not surrender. Kexthor stopped at his podium and looked at her. For a long moment, neither spoke. The assembled observers held their breath. Then Kexthor did something no one expected. He bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind his species gave only to superior officers or defeated enemies acknowledging a victor. "Commodore Chen," he said, his voice translated instantly. "I am Admiral Kexthor of the Gentar Hegemony. I come before you and before the Assembly to acknowledge what happened in Sector 447. I attacked your vessel without cause. I threatened your crew. I believed you would surrender or die. I was wrong. You defended yourself with skill and strength I had never witnessed before. You defeated my fleet and spared the survivors. For this I owe you the truth. The hegemony acknowledges that we provoked this conflict. We seek peace with humanity. We offer our respect and our friendship if you will accept it." The hall erupted in noise. Aliens talking, shouting, expressing shock and surprise. The hegemony never apologized. The hegemony never admitted defeat. Yet here was their admiral doing exactly that. Chen let the noise die down before she responded. "Admiral Kexthor, I accept your acknowledgement. I also acknowledge that you showed wisdom in ordering your fleet to retreat when you could have continued fighting. You saved lives with that decision, both your people and mine. The United Earth government has authorized me to negotiate a peace treaty with the hegemony. We propose the following. Both sides will respect each other's borders. We will establish trade relations. We will open diplomatic channels, and we will agree that what happened in Sector 447 is finished. Neither side will seek revenge or reparations. We move forward, not backward." Kexthor lifted his head, relief visible in his body language. "These terms are acceptable. The Hegemony Council has authorized me to agree to them." Chen nodded, then let it be recorded. Humanity and the hegemony are at peace. The observers erupted again, this time in celebration. Peace had been achieved without further bloodshed. 2 species that should have been at war had chosen diplomacy instead. It was unprecedented. It was historic. But Chen knew the real work was just beginning. As the crowd celebrated, she looked around the hall at the hundreds of alien species watching. Some looked relieved. Some looked calculating. Some looked hungry like predators sizing up new prey. Over the next weeks, delegations from dozens of species approached Chen. Some wanted trade agreements. Some wanted military alliances. Some wanted to hire human mercenaries or buy human weapons technology. Some simply wanted to talk, to understand this new species that had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Chen listened to them all. She made no promises she could not keep. She offered friendship to those who seemed genuine and cool professionalism, to those who seemed opportunistic. Slowly, carefully, she built a network of relationships that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. One evening, she stood in her quarters on the assembly station, looking out a viewport at the stars. So many stars, so many worlds, so many possibilities. Humanity was no longer alone. The universe was vast and filled with life, both wonderful and terrible. Her communicator beeped, a message from Earth Command. She read it and smiled. The message was simple. Well done, Commodore. You have given humanity a future among the stars. Come home when you are ready. You have earned your rest. But Chen was not ready to rest. There was too much work to do. Too many species to meet. Too many opportunities to explore. She had spent her career preparing for war. Now she had a chance to build peace. It was harder than combat in many ways, but it was also more important. She looked at the Indomitable through the viewport, her ship floating peacefully at dock, the ship that had become a legend, the ship that had announced humanity to the galaxy in a flash of fire and fury, the ship that had shown everyone that humans could fight, but also that humans could choose not to fight. That was the real message of the 32nd War, not that humanity was strong. Every species could be strong, but that humanity was wise enough to use that strength only when necessary. To offer peace to defeated enemies, to build bridges instead of empires. Chen turned away from the viewport and sat at her desk. She pulled up the schedule for tomorrow. 3 more meetings, 5 more species, endless possibilities. She smiled and got to work. The battle was over. The real challenge was just beginning, and she was ready for it.